when should I, as a small business, start to consider hiring a vCISO?
Immediately, call me. No,
Good
no.
answer.
No, really, you should always be thinking about security from the get-go, but you should you should have some sort of input when you start growing your business, whether it be a virtual CISO or some sort of, at this point in time, a security consultant, even more on the first line of defense is fine. You can start out in the IT security area because I mean, the majority of the risks when you're a smaller business is going to be more on the IT security risk side. So we have a service called a virtual ISO for that. It's more tactical, less strategic. In fact, it's very little strategic. And it makes more sense from there. But then as you start talking about data retention requirements, compliance requirements, if you start ingesting actual consumer data and you're responsible for that, you have to get cyber insurance. A lot of the times, I think you're going to see this more and more, that you're going to have a virtual CISO type consultant just for meeting cybersecurity insurance requirements, because they're not just doing a questionnaire anymore. They want to make sure you actually understand the risks instead of saying, yes, I've got this, yes, I've got this, yes, I've got that. So that's one area. Now that's more ideal, and that doesn't happen most of the time. A lot of times what happens is that folks will want to bring in a virtual CISO when they start having to meet some sort of regulatory requirement or some attestation framework. So the latter would be like, say, SOC 2 or PCI. The former might be high trust, for example. And these are usually customer or prospect driven. And so now, in their eyes, security now becomes a business enabler. By that point in time, but it would make more sense if they had contracted with a virtual CISO prior to that. And whether that be on a regular basis or some sort of retainer basis depends upon the scope of the need of the engagement.
Right. So just to kind of summarize that, if you're maybe like a plumber or lawn care or company, maybe you've got like 10 people on your staff and you're looking to do some level of security, a virtual CISO may not really make sense, but
Yeah.
you want the more tactical. But if you're, say, starting to get into the 20, 50 plus employee size and you're in the healthcare industry, you have those other considerations that you need to account for.
Well, sometimes it's not employee size, though, because you could have a
Okay.
lawn care agency that has 50 employees, but they're not really dealing much with like sensitive information. So just some good IT security consulting for if they're using Microsoft 365, for example, make sure that they've got things set in. And a lot of times, too, it's like I have a very, very good web service provider that provides security for the web page and reports once a month. That sort of stuff would be fine. But then you can have in my case, I'm working with an 8-person startup right now that they're building an application, so that they need to have security built in. They're already ingesting information from their clients as they start bringing stuff in, and if they lose that information, it's going to be huge for them. So if there's not a one size fits all, it really comes down to the information that they have and the risk to the information there and the risk to the business if that information either got out or was not accessible.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the confusion, especially when we talk about the complexity of security. What do I need? Or what do I want versus what do I need? And a lot of people might think that they need to have a vCISO for this, that, and the other thing, when in that case, they're not ingesting that data, they're not doing anything around those routes. Their needs are very different. Because a lot of the times these prospects, like you said, it's driven by, vendor requirements or insurance requirements. They're just doing it because they have to. They would rather focus back onto their business. They don't want to spend the time and money and resources trying to figure out security.